They're not a passing team. He's a wide receiver. Yes, winning Super Bowls, sure. Every player, I'm sure, deep down would love to do that. But he's a receiver. He wants to be in an offense where the ball's thrown and where they have a passing game. And this is not a team that really foundationally has a passing game.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Finish Strong Friday presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. That means we have part 2 with Greg Cosell and some insane games to get his breakdown on. Plus, right after Greg, I'll give you my thoughts on last night's game between the Patriots and the Jets, and a decent amount of news to get to as well. Probably going to save the winners for tomorrow's Saturday sit-down episode. So if you're someone that takes advantage of any of our sponsors or makes a comment on youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, or just engages with @Ross Tucker Pod or @Ross Tucker NFL on social, make sure you listen or watch tomorrow's episode. It's a good one. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Greg, let's start before we get into some of these more high-profile matchups. Let's start with the Bengals and the Steelers. It's kind of crazy. If the Bengals defense had gotten a stop against the Jets and the Bears, they'd be tied for first place right now with the Steelers at 5-4. Alas, they're 3-6. Joe Burrow back on the practice field this week, but not going to play in this game. They're going up against the Steelers team. Boy, Greg, that was hard to watch Sunday night. I mean, their offense at times is like painful to watch. They've had other good moments this year. So maybe the Bengals defense is just what the Steelers offense needed. What do you think about Bengals Steelers?
Yeah, that's one of those games. I don't know what to say much about the Steelers offense. I agree with you. It's been a difficult offense to watch. They don't run the ball with any kind of consistency. They play a lot of big people. They play multiple tight ends. They play 6 offensive linemen. They've not really been able to develop any consistent pass game. Rodgers, which he did extremely well, obviously in his prime, they do not work the middle of the field at all. Whether that's a function of Rodgers later in his career, or whether that's a function of Arthur Smith, or whether it's a function of they don't think they have receivers who can do that, although Metcalf theoretically should be able to do anything. It's a difficult offense to watch. Defensively, they started to play a little better. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I feel like that the Bengals could, the way they've been going, that they could put up 50 points and still lose. But my sense is that the Steelers are not going to put up 40 against the Bengals just because of the way the Steelers play.
Feels like the Steelers defense has been better ever since they put Ramsey at safety.
Yeah, he's pretty much a full-time safety right now. And that's because early in the season he was playing some safety on base downs, mostly slot corner, occasionally outside corner, but he's now pretty much a full-time safety.
Let's move on, Greg, to the Niners and the Cardinals.
Yep.
It sounds like, obviously, we record these early in the morning. It sounds like there's a chance that Brock Purdy might play in this game. They might wait another week. Obviously, Mac Jones has played really well. You probably get asked a lot, Greg, don't you, on radio shows, whether or not, City XYZ should sign Mac or try to get Mac Jones in the offseason. Is Mac Jones a starter for someone else in the offseason? They're going against Arizona, which obviously is in the midst of a tough year. They will not have Marvin Harrison Jr. As I said on yesterday's show, he had an appendicitis. Niners, Cardinals, Greg.
Yeah, the Niners have struggled a bit this year for a couple of reasons. Number one, they've not been able to run the football the way that they have in the past and the way that they have to based on what their offensive foundation is under Kyle Shanahan. They just have not had any consistency in the run game. There's not been a lot of room for Christian McCaffrey, so that struggled. And then in the pass game, They don't really have any kind of vertical dimension due to the injuries. Ricky Pearsall, I believe, is due to be back this week. And while he's not a burner, he does give you a little more vertically than they have right now. And so therefore, even though Mac Jones has been very efficient, they don't really have any explosive plays in the pass game. I mean, last week he was 33 for 39. And if you just look at that on a stat sheet, you go, wow. But their longest pass play was 22 yards, and it came late in the first half in one of those, 2-minute type drives. So they just have not been able to create any explosives. And Ross, how hard it is in this league, no matter how good you may be, to stay in offense if you don't get explosive somewhere along the line. And because the run game has not been able to sustain, their offense at times just gets, shut down.
Feels like that's a major theme with a lot of teams in the NFL, that they're not running it as well as they'd like, and they're not getting the explosives. Part of that's a product of how people are playing defense these days. It's why scoring's been more of a struggle in recent years.
Yeah, and again, don't forget Mac Jones. While Mac Jones is an efficient player and a solid player, he's a certain kind of player. I mean, he's not the kind of guy that's going to take deep drops and drive the ball at the intermediate and deeper levels. He's in the perfect system for him where everything is choreographed and it's rhythmic and it's timing based. That's who Mac Jones is. That's why they signed him, because he can run that system. But they don't have enough players for that system to go beyond what it is. They don't really have run after catch players. I mean, the reality is Jawan Jennings is not a number one receiver. As tough and physical and competitive as he is, he's just not that guy.
Can you see Mac Jones starting somewhere next year, Greg?
It would have to be very specific to the structure of an offense. I mean, I think he can, but I think you have to understand what he is and what he isn't.
Who he reminds me of a little bit in Shanahan's offense? I'm not saying he's just like this guy, and this guy, by the way, played at a really high level, never gets enough credit. A little bit of Matt Schaub at times.
Interesting.
From Mac Jones in that offense.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right. Let's get to the Seahawks and the Rams. Greg, people still look at me like I have two heads when I say this. I think there's a really good chance they're the two best teams in football. I mean, they have been awesome. Wow. They've won 4 straight games. They've been murdering people. The Rams offense is outrageous. The Seahawks defense is outrageous, which makes this really, really juicy.
Well, there's so much to unpack in this game, and we can't get into everything. But I think the starting point has to be what Sean McVay did starting 3 weeks ago. He made such a dramatic change that you rarely see in the NFL, Ross. You just go back 2-3 years, okay? Every year, who played the highest percentage of 11 personnel in the league? 3 wide receivers. The Rams. They were 90-95% at times. Now, in the last 3 weeks, they have played an incredibly high percentage, over 40% in the last 3 weeks, of 13 personnel with 3 tight ends. They made that change in the middle of a season. That kind of change does not happen very often at all, and they've been unbelievable doing that. Do you know that in these last 3 games, out of 13 personnel, Matthew Stafford has 8 touchdown passes? Think about that. Just in the last 3 games out of 13 personnel. I've been trying to figure out why they've done it. I don't have a brilliant answer for that. I'm just being honest. But that change is just ridiculously dramatic in the middle of an NFL season.
That is rare. And you already jumped my question. And I can't believe you don't have the answer. I wanted to know what the answer was. I wanted to know why.
I made a few calls and I haven't.
I don't know, Greg, that it's not like they have 3 elite tight ends. I mean, those guys are fine, but it's not like, hey, we got to get Brock Bowers, Gronkowski, and Kelsey on the field together. They
actually have 4 tight ends that they play a lot. And the interesting thing about it is, as good as Puka Nacua is, he's never the wide receiver when they go 3 tight ends. He's rarely ever the wide receiver in their 12 personnel when they play 2 tight ends. Puka Nacua, something like 90% of his snaps this year have been in 11 personnel. So Nakua is not even in the game when they're in 12 and 13 personnel.
Because they have only one receiver a lot of time, or no.
Well, in
like
13, they only have one wide
and they
out,
want that to be Devontae.
and the high percentage of the time it's Devontae Adams.
Got it. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, I had seen people talking about them going with more 13 personnel. I was curious as well. I'll say
really
this.
dramatic, Ross. I mean, it's like I said, it's not just understand this. Last year in the 2024 season, they had 3 total plays of 13 personnel. In the last 3 weeks, they have had 89 plays of 13 personnel.
So I want to make a point here, Greg, for the listeners and the people that watch us, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. When you have, there are gaps in between every offensive blocker, right? So on either side of the center is the 2A gaps.
Right.
Between the guard and the tackle is the 2B gaps. Between the tackle and the end of the line of scrimmage or the tight end is the C gap.
Yep.
The more tight ends you have, the more gaps you are creating, the more gaps the defense is responsible for, the more the second and third level players are responsible for gaps in the run game and in a run fit. So what you're doing is you're making the safeties, sometimes the corners, they are now part of the run fit. Correct. Because of these extra gaps that have been created. So their initial thought against play action pass is that's my gap. And then there's a momentary hesitation. I think sometimes people think like when Greg Roman has Tucker Fisk and Matlock out there, Greg, I think some people think it's all about the beef. I think a lot of times it's creating extra gaps just so that people that don't have to work against those gaps and those type of run fits have to.
2 quick points, and then we want to move on. Number one, they'll run a lot to what we call the 5-man surface. In other words, they'll have all 3 tight ends attached to one side, where the guard and the tackle are, and so there's 5 players to that side, 5 offensive players, what, as you know, we call a 5-man surface. That speaks to your point about the gaps. The other point is you almost always get far more predictable looks and less versatility from defensive play calling when you have 3 tight ends on the field and a defense is in their base defense as opposed to in a nickel or a dime. So it makes the defense far more predictable from a front and coverage perspective.
What about, Greg, the Seahawks part of this? Obviously, they've been fantastic, whether it's the offense or the defense. What's jumping out to you about Seattle recently?
So much. Their defense has played extremely well. Nick Emenwari is being used in many ways like Mike McDonald used Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore. He's essentially their second-level defender who can be the slot. He can be in the box. He can be an overhang player. Sometimes he can line up on the back end. He's a really good football player. Offensively, what stood out to me, and this is only going to get better with Shaheed now being there, and they tried to get him the ball last week in multiple ways. They even handed it to him in the backfield on a handoff. But their play-action pass game is starting to really, over the last month, become more a foundation of what they do. And I think that's only going to increase with Shaheed because of the vertical dimension.
Yep, I think that's why they got him. Let's talk Ravens-Browns. Greg, before we get to the other 2 games, big-time games. Ravens-Browns. Greg, anything jump out to you about this one?
Yeah, I think the Ravens defense is starting to play much, much better. I think a very overlooked trade on the trading deadline was Draymond Jones, who's now a Raven, and he's a guy that can line up on the outside, which he did this past week against Minnesota when they were in dime. He was an inside player a lot when they were in nickel. He was an edge pass rusher. He's a good pass rusher. He gives them a little more juice with that pass rush. I think they're getting better on the back end, and I think they've made some adjustments in how they play dime. They play a lot of 3-2-6 dime now, where Smith and Trenton Simpson are the 2 linebackers, gives them more speed, more versatility. I think their defense is coming on a bit.
We spoke with Draymond before the Chargers-Titans game, his last game as a Titan.
He was playing well.
I forgot, Greg, that he came into the league as a 3 technique.
As a 3 technique out of Ohio State, and I loved his college tape as a 3 technique because he was very, very quick off the ball.
Yeah, so he's lost weight, and he said it's different. The timing of the hands of the offensive lineman, what you're able to see. He feels like he's almost still getting used to, playing off the edge like that, which I thought was fascinating. Okay, let's get to the Broncos and the Chiefs. This is the Tony Romo, Jim Nantz game, I believe. The 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time featured game. What are you looking for with Chiefs-Broncos?
Yeah, it's hard to get a feel for the Chiefs right now. They're coming off a bye. Obviously, their last game was the loss to Buffalo. When you look at the Broncos, you've got to talk about their defense. They lead the NFL in sacks for the second year in a row, this year by a wide margin. They do so many good things. Vance Joseph's, it's not his first rodeo. He knows how to create pressures. He knows how to create one-on-ones with his players. They do that really, really well. They create one-on-ones when he feels that he has an advantage up front. Again, to me, they're a defensive team because their offense has been, very uneven, very up and down. Bo Nix has struggled a bit this year. Bo Nix this year has played. Sometimes I watch Nix, his feet don't stop moving. I almost feel at times as if he invents pressure, Ross. He's just not a comfortable player, and which is surprising given the way he finished last season, but he just hasn't been able to get into that comfort zone this year. So they're really a defensive team right now.
That's an interesting thing for Knicks because their offensive line's pretty good.
I know.
He should be a quote-unquote comfortable player.
I agree.
Because they have pretty good offensive line around him. I mean, he's been sacked at one point, at least this season. He was sacked the least out of anybody.
Yeah, it's not the sack so much. It's not that he's getting sacked necessarily, but it's just that he's not. And I'm trying to think, again, I used this yesterday when we spoke about J.J. McCarthy. I feel like Knicks, everything is happening so fast for him. There's just not a poise and a composure and a comfort level to the way he's playing. His feet don't stop moving. As I said, sometimes I almost feel like he invents pressure that's not there, and then he moves. And it doesn't allow them to have any kind of rhythm and timing within the structure of their pass game on a consistent basis.
Greg, what do you make of players like a Nix or a Caleb Williams that seem to play better or play their best at the end of these games to help their team win?
I don't have a brilliant answer for that, Ross, and I'm just being honest. I don't, I don't know. I mean, obviously people then say they're clutch and they have a clutch gene. I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, obviously they do it. So it's not as if I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen, but I don't have an answer for why that occurs.
Let's talk about a really fun game. It's the game I'm going to be in the booth for on Sunday night for Westwood One with Ryan Radke. Very much looking forward to it. It's the Lions and the Eagles. Two teams kind of come into this game from different perspectives. The Lions, with Dan Campbell calling the plays for the first time in years, they had their most explosive offensive game of the season, 546 yards against the Commanders, whereas the Eagles, the defense looked fantastic. The Eagles only put up 10 points, but that was all they needed. Blank canvas, Greg. Would love to probably hit, both sides of the ball in this one.
Yeah, let's start with Eagles offense. Watching that tape, Ross, my mouth was almost open watching that tape. I just didn't understand in some ways what I was looking at. I mean, I felt, and I'll mention one play that I think is very representative of what I'm about to say, but I almost felt in that game as if the Eagles played that game offensively to minimize Jalen Hurts as a factor in the game. And that's very surprising. I mean, there's a play I want to mention. It was first third quarter possession, okay? It was 3rd and 12 from the plus 25-yard line going in a scoreless game, okay? Keep that in mind. It's a scoreless game. And they hand the ball off to Shipley. That's a give-up call in a scoring situation in a scoreless game. And when I saw that play, because I didn't see it live, I was thinking to myself, and of course this is after I'd seen the game up to that point, I'm thinking, God, that just struck me as so strange. Why are you not having Jalen Hurts drop back? You've got Devonta Smith, you've got A.J. Brown, you've got Dallas Goedert, and you're giving it up to kick a field goal to go ahead 3-0. I just was very, very surprised by the offensive approach in that game. And again, we're not in the meetings, Ross, so I can't sit here and say why, but it just struck me watching the tape that they played that game to minimize Jalen Hurts as a factor in the game.
Well, that especially doesn't make sense, considering how well he had been playing as of late. What do you make, Greg, when, it's a major topic of conversation in Philadelphia this week, is A.J. Brown, seemingly every week, which is a whole other conversation. Is he getting a lot of coverage rolled to him, Greg? Is
No.
that why the ball is finding Devontae Smith more? What do you see when you see A.J. Brown?
No, that's not the case at all. I think ultimately, probably, and people are probably upset with him because it's a team sport. They won a Super Bowl, all that stuff. You know me, I don't get into that stuff. But here's my guess. They're not really a passing team, Ross, and you know that. Even when they're playing their best football, Jalen Hurts doesn't necessarily throw for more than 200 yards. They're not a passing team. He's a wide receiver. Yes, winning Super Bowls, sure. Every player, I'm sure, deep down would love to do that. But he's a receiver. He wants to be in an offense where the ball's thrown and where they have a passing game. And this is not a team that really foundationally has a passing game. We've said this numerous times. Even in their Super Bowl season a year ago, I think Hurts started 18 or 19 games. In 9 or 10 of them, he did not throw for 200 yards. That's not the way they play. They're a foundationally run-first team, and the passing game kind of works off that. Every once in a while, depending on the game, they might throw it a little more, but they're not really a passing team. And he wants to be in an offense. I'm not defending him, by the way. I'm just giving you my opinion. He wants to be in an offense where they throw the football and he can get targets. I think he had 2 targets on the first possession, and then he didn't have another target till late in the game. I think. I could be wrong on that, but he's not really a meaningful part of the offense on a week-to-week basis.
What about the other side when the Lions have the ball?
Yeah, I think ultimately they want to start with the run game. As good as their pass game can be, obviously, I think they want to start with the run game, and I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup in this game. There's certain runs that I think work really well against penetrating 4-man D lines. Maybe you'll see some wham trap runs where you get angles and leverage on defensive linemen who penetrate, but I think they clearly want to start with the run game and feel like that has to be the starting point and then work off that.
Did you notice anything with Campbell as the play caller, Greg?
I didn't even know that he was calling the plays until I didn't know that until it kind of became announced. So I was watching the tape. It's hard to know that, because I'm sure there's little things, but I'd have to study that. I'd have to watch that game for 6 hours, and I don't have that kind of time. So I didn't necessarily notice, anything where I went, oh boy, that's Dan Campbell. And plus, I don't know what his overall philosophy is. They got a lot of good players. And Goff is if he's protected, Goff's a really, really good quarterback.
Check him out on social media at Greg Cosell. He's fantastic. Joins us every Thursday and Friday here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, which is why it's critically important that you not only subscribe on your podcast app or youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, but turn the notifications on so you can hear what Greg has to say immediately. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
All right, let's dive into the news. But first, if you guys have been listening or watching on YouTube the Saturday Sit Down, the key to being a winner each week is doing any of the things we talk about. How about I just give you the answer this week? Get a free estimate at westshorehome.com/Ross. I know a lot of you have wondered what it would cost to redo a bathroom or just to redo a shower in a day. Well, don't wonder anymore. Get a free estimate. Information is power. You can buy a full bath remodel and get a shower replaced in another bathroom free. It's called buy one, get one sale, or buy a house full of windows and get an entry door free. You guys are saving thousands of dollars if you do that for your family. Flexible financing options are available. And how about this? Just for being a fan of the show, you get an exclusive discount of $500 off by scheduling at westshorehome.com/Ross. See website for details. I don't understand the science. Maybe it's because they're originally from Canada, but Labatt beer tastes even better in the winter. It is so good. And with buy beer, get gear from Labatt, just go to the website, snap a photo of your receipt, upload it instantly to rack up points for exclusive merch. You can get points for every purchase at any store, bar, stadium, any size, any product. It doesn't matter. Anywhere you're buying Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, last night's game, the Patriots, they won their 8th straight. They're moving to 9-2, 27-14 win over the Jets.
Just incredibly impressive how they remade the offensive line. They remade the receiving core. They remade the coaching staff. And they already had the quarterback. And that is obviously the big one. Thought May was good, not great last night, but obviously better than Justin Fields. The Jets kept trying to throw the ball to A.D. Mitchell. That was not working out for them. And quite frankly, the more the Jets have Fields run, the better off they are. That should be a huge focal point of their offense if they want to win games. Travion Henderson, by the way, has provided a gigantic spark for the Patriots.
Several roster moves. The Broncos, they signed wide receiver Lil Jordan Humphrey off the Giants practice squad. Jaguars, they cut DT Kalen Saunders. Jets put Garrett Wilson on IR, and Kyle Shanahan announced that Brock Purdy will start for the 49ers on Sunday in Arizona.
So that last one is interesting because if you listen or watch both episodes of the Even Money Betting Podcast, Dr. Chow said based on video from practice that Purdy's still not pushing off that back foot, still clearly not 100%. So him being out there to play is certainly one to watch. The Jets had to go to A.D. Mitchell. Now that Garrett Wilson's on IR, I kind of doubt we'll see him again this year. And the Saunders one's interesting because his salary is guaranteed for the year. So Jags have to pay him for the rest of the year. Now he'll go somewhere else and get a chance to do the vaunted double dip for the second half of the year. That's what all players dream of. Other than that, Saturday sit down tomorrow. They've been awesome. Don't miss it. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. I tell you guys about it every episode because I feel that strongly about how awesome of a holiday gift it would be for any of the loved ones in your life. myfrontpagestory.com. Backofficescheduler.com, humannyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.